All right, let's talk about something we hear all the time: data protection and data security. They sound pretty much the same, right? Well, it turns out they're not, and knowing the difference is super important, especially since, we live our lives online.
I mean, just think about your day. You've probably already used Google, scrolled through your Instagram feed, put on a Spotify playlist, maybe even bought something from Amazon. Every time you do any of that, every click, every search, every song, these companies are collecting little bits of data about you. It's just how it works.
So it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? With all this data floating around, whose job is it to protect it? Is it on us? Is it on them? Let's dig in and figure that out.
Okay, first things first. To really get why this is a big deal, you have to understand one thing. Your data, it's basically the fuel that runs the entire digital world. It's not some random side effect. It's the main event. It's big, big business.
Seriously, the whole business model for these huge platforms is built on your personal info. Google needs your search history to show you ads you might actually click. Spotify looks at your location to recommend local concerts, and Amazon, it watches what you browse to suggest what you might buy next. Since this data is so valuable, there have to be rules, right? And understanding those rules is key.
And that brings us right to the core of what we're talking about today, the huge difference between data protection and data security. Yeah, they sound alike, but trust me, they're two totally different beasts. So, let's break it down. Think of it this way. Data protection is all about permission. It's the legal, ethical question, hey, are we even allowed to have this data in the first place? But data security, that's all about defense. That's the tech question. Okay, we have the data, now how do we stop anyone from stealing it?
Let's go a little deeper here. Protection, that's the legal and ethical side of things. It's all about your rights, like your right to say yes or no to your data being used, or your right to have it deleted. Security, on the other hand, that's all about the technical stuff. We're talking firewalls, encryption, the nuts and bolts of keeping things safe. So here's the simplest way to remember it. One is about the rules of the game, and the other is about the locks on the door.
And this image really nails the relationship between the two. Data protection, that's the human side. It's about your rights, your consent, what's fair. Data security is the technology. It's the digital fortress they build to make sure those rights are respected. And you absolutely need both. Think about it. A company could have the most amazing, unhackable system ever. That's top-notch security, right? But if they're sneakily collecting your health info without your permission and selling it, that is a gigantic data protection failure. The fortress is strong, but what they're doing inside is completely wrong.
Okay, so let's stick with the protection side for a minute. Companies can't just wing it. There's a whole rule book, actual laws, that tells them exactly what they can and cannot do with your info.
The first thing you need to know is the term personal data. This is basically any piece of information that can be tied back to you as a person. You know, the obvious stuff like your name, address, or email. But hang on, is all data the same? Is your name getting out there really as big of a deal as, say, your private medical history? Of course not. And the law actually agrees. And that's where this next category comes in, particularly sensitive personal data. This is the kind of stuff that, if it got out, could cause real harm. We're talking discrimination or major privacy violations. Think health data, your political opinions, or even your fingerprint. This stuff gets extra protection.
And because of this, companies have some really clear obligations. They have to get your permission, your explicit consent. They can only use your data for the one reason they told you about. They have to tell you what they have on you if you ask. And for that super sensitive stuff, they need to lock it down with extra strong security.
All right, so that's the rule book. That's data protection. Now let's switch gears and look at data security. How do companies actually go about building that digital fortress we talked about?
Well, here's the thing. Good security isn't something you set up once and forget about. It's a cycle that never ends. First, they plan, figure out their goals. Then they do, put the protections in place. Then they constantly check to make sure it's all working. And finally, they act. They adapt and improve things as new threats pop up. It just keeps going around and around.
And here's what that looks like in the real world. The best companies don't just add security at the very end, like an afterthought. They use something called a secure software development lifecycle. And the big idea here is simple. Security is baked in from the very beginning. From the moment they're just sketching out an idea all the way through building it, testing it, and launching it, security is part of every single step.
Okay, so we've got the rules and we've got the fortress, but what exactly is that fortress defending against? Let's talk about the main dangers out there.
First up, you've got simple accidents.
And honestly, not every data breach is some mastermind hacker. It can be something as random as a fire or a server just dying. And a huge one? Just plain old human error, someone clicking the wrong button because they weren't trained properly.
Then you have deliberate interference. This is when people mean to cause trouble. It could be someone on the inside changing data without permission, an outsider stealing an entire database, or even someone trying to completely destroy the system on purpose.
And finally, of course, you've got cyber attacks. This is the one we all think of. We're talking about things like phishing emails trying to trick you out of your password, DDoS attacks designed to shut a website down, and nasty software like viruses or ransomware that can lock up your files.
Now, with all these threats, it's really easy to get spooked, and it's worth keeping this in mind. What you see in the news isn't always the full picture. The media coverage can get a little hyped up sometimes, so it's always good to approach these stories with a bit of critical thinking.
So, we've covered a lot. The rules, the fortress, the dangers. Let's bring this all back to you. Why should you care about the difference between protection and security? What does it mean for you?
Look, it really comes down to this one simple idea. Data protection is your fundamental right. It's your right to control your own story online. And data security, that's the company's absolute duty. It's their job to guard that story and keep it safe.
So now you know. You know the difference. The next time you're using one of your favorite apps, you can ask a smarter question. Are the companies I'm trusting with my data getting both parts right? It's a powerful question to ask.